Imagine being summoned to the mansion of a woman the world has obsessed over for decades, a woman so rich, so glamorous, and so mysterious that reporters have spent years trying and failing to uncover her secrets. Her name is Margaret Ives, an heiress wrapped in rumors of vanished lovers, quiet scandals, and tragedies no one has ever confirmed. She has never given a real interview. Never allowed anyone to write her story. Until now. But here's the twist that turns everything upside down. She doesn't choose just one writer. She chooses two. And she demands they compete for the right to expose her truth. One is a legendary journalist, feared and admired across the industry. The other is a young, hungry writer holding on to her last real chance. Both enter Margaret's mansion thinking they're there to learn her story. Neither realizes they are stepping into a psychological battlefield where ambition, trust, rivalry, and buried secrets collide. Welcome to Great Big Beautiful Life, one of the most talked about novels of the year. Today, I'll take you through the story from start to finish in a way that feels immersive, emotional, and unforgettable. The novel begins in Little Crescent, Georgia, a charming southern town with pastel houses, warm sunlight, and an unspoken sense that everyone knows everyone else's business, except when it comes to the woman who lives at the top of the hill. That woman is Margaret Ives. Into this world arrives Alice Scott, our main character. Alice is a writer in her late 20s, creative, ambitious, and talented, but stuck. She writes for small magazines and websites. She hustles. She dreams of writing something meaningful enough to change her future. But she hasn't yet had that breakthrough moment. When she receives an email inviting her to write the official biography of Margaret Ives, she can't believe it. This could be her big break. The job that transforms her career. The opportunity writers dream of. But her excitement evaporates the moment she walks inside the mansion and sees Hayden Anderson waiting in the foyer. Hayden is a giant in the journalism world. A Pulitzer Prize winner. A man whose articles spark nationwide conversations. He is calm, confident, brilliant, and intimidating. To Alice, standing beside him feels like standing next to a fully formed version of everything she wants to become. She quickly realizes the truth she wasn't told: this is a competition. Margaret soon confirms it. She glides into the room with elegance and authority, greeting them both with a subtle smile that carries decades of secrets. She tells them that they will each spend 1 month interviewing her, exploring her home, reading her archives, and understanding her past. At the end of the month, they will each pitch their vision for her biography. Only one of them will win the rights to tell her story. The other will walk away empty-handed. Alice immediately feels outmatched, but she forces herself to stay composed. Hayden, meanwhile, acts unfazed. He has played in high-stakes environments before. To him, this feels like just another prestigious project. But beneath the professionalism, both writers feel the pressure. Margaret is unlike any subject they've encountered. Her presence is commanding. Her history is mysterious. And her expectations are incredibly high. Alice begins her first interview slowly and carefully. She understands that trust is something she must earn. Margaret starts with stories from her childhood, stories that sound polished and practiced. She describes growing up in a wealthy Southern family, surrounded by privilege but lacking emotional warmth. Her mother was breathtakingly beautiful but emotionally distant. Her father was powerful but cold. Margaret's childhood appears glamorous from the outside, yet lonely from the inside. Alice senses something deeper, something unsaid. Meanwhile, Hayden's interviews take a different tone. He asks direct, probing questions. He pushes. He looks for cracks in Margaret's narrative. Margaret respects his intellect but remains guarded. As the days pass, Alice and Hayden develop a tense rivalry. They compete for interview slots, access to certain documents, and even subtle reactions from Margaret. Yet, beneath the rivalry, there is curiosity between them. Hayden is impressed by Alice's empathy. Alice is surprised by glimpses of Hayden's kindness beneath his tough exterior. Their dynamic shifts from hostile to sharp-edged respect. Inside the mansion, Alice starts noticing details. Certain photographs are turned toward the wall. Certain family members are mentioned only briefly. And some periods of Margaret's life are spoken about with rehearsed clarity, while others dissolve into vagueness. Alice begins taking notes not just on what Margaret says, but what she avoids saying. She senses a silent grief woven into Margaret's life, something that shaped her deeply. Midway through the month, Alice accidentally discovers inconsistencies in Margaret's timeline. A supposed event in her 20s doesn't match the date on an old photograph. An important person Margaret describes in passing does not appear in any of her archived letters. Alice approaches Margaret cautiously, and when she does, Margaret ends the interview early. Later that night, Alice overhears Margaret crying in one of the dark hallways. It becomes clear that Margaret is not simply hiding something, she is protecting a wound that still bleeds. Hayden, too, begins noticing inconsistencies. But he handles them more bluntly, which causes Margaret to shut down even further. Both writers start to feel the emotional weight of Margaret's secrets. And as the tension rises, Alice and Hayden grow unexpectedly closer. They share late-night conversations about their careers, their insecurities, and the pressure of their assignment. These moments soften their rivalry and spark a slow-burn connection neither expected. The final week brings the truth to the surface. Through a combination of interviews, hidden letters, and emotional breakthroughs, Alice and Hayden uncover the defining tragedy Margaret has concealed for decades. It involves a person she loved deeply and lost unexpectedly. It involves a decision she regrets. And it explains why she has spent her life controlling her public narrative so tightly. The revelation is devastating, raw, and transformative. Alice is torn. Including the secret in her biography pitch would guarantee a powerful, unforgettable story. But it would also expose Margaret's deepest pain. Hayden faces the same moral dilemma. The competition suddenly feels secondary to compassion. Both writers feel responsible for honoring Margaret's humanity. Pitch day arrives. Alice presents a concept rooted in empathy, emotional truth, and the complexity of Margaret's inner world. Hayden presents a bold and investigative angle that explores the weight of silence and the power of legacy. Margaret listens quietly. Her expression is unreadable. She asks them both to return the next morning for her decision. The night is long, tense, and filled with uncertainty. When Margaret finally chooses the winning writer, she does so with grace. She selects the one who understood her not just as a public figure, but as a human being struggling to reconcile her past. She chooses the one who honored her vulnerability while still capturing her strength. The choice brings tears, relief, and closure. Yet, even the writer who is not chosen gains something invaluable: growth, clarity, and a deeper understanding of themselves. As Alice leaves the mansion after the final meeting, she pauses at the top of the hill and looks back. The mansion, once an intimidating fortress of secrets, now feels like a place where truth was finally unburied. She realizes that stories are not just facts. They are living, breathing mirrors of the people behind them. And Margaret's story, full of beauty, pain, failures, and triumphs, reminds her that every life holds something worth telling. Something worth remembering. Something worth fighting for. In the end, Great Big Beautiful Life is a story about truth, ambition, and the courage to face the parts of yourself you've tried to hide. It is about rivalry that turns into understanding. About love that grows from honesty. And about the idea that even the most glamorous life carries shadows. But those shadows do not define us. What defines us is how we choose to tell our story. And that is what makes any life, no matter how messy, a great, big, beautiful one.